We good? All right, everyone, we will reconvene the meeting, 10:41. Okay, so we are on item 8.1. This is on page 154. This is the Health and Safety and Wellbeing Report for September. I got there? No. Sorry, December 2023, January 2024. Stu, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. I'll take the report as read and point you to a few key points through as we go. And you'll see in the national events under point 9 there, Stratford Logan have been prosecuted in relation to unsafe practice with the use of chainsaws and the operation of their site. It's quite pertinent to us because we actually do use chainsaws from time to time, both with our staff and also with contractors that we engage. And you'll see that point 14 gives a pretty comprehensive report of all of the things that we have surrounding that to ensure that we have safe practice, trained staff and supervision, and that we also notify WorkSafe. Dave, I'm not sure if I've provided a video just for you to have a look at what actual barber chairing is, so you would have an understanding of that. It may work, Dave, if it is there. It's about a 90-second clip just for you to see how dangerous this practice is. Yep.
How to get the most of Grammarly free.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
That was.
Yeah. So you can see that he had a lucky escape there. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's the importance of knowing what you're doing when you're operating a chainsaw.
Thank you for sharing that, because when I read the report, I was trying to imagine what barber chairing would. I was trying to come up with an image. So thank you for that. Very stark reminder.
No problem. With us, we haven't had that happen. There's a number of things. I mean, I won't go into the detail around. I'm not trained to advise you on how to cut a tree down, but there's a number of things you can see wrong there. This face cut isn't deep enough, and it was a rotten tree. And training is pretty extensive to avoid that actually happening. So we make sure that we have the training in place and the supervision to ensure that we don't have that. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. As we move on, I'm going to just go through to the wellbeing point. We've talked about this before, and I know that it's been an important topic for you. And if you go through to point 38 under the wellbeing initiatives, you'll see that between January and December, we had 80% of all of our referrals through EAP for non-work related matters, and 40% of those have been for staff seeking assistance for anxiety, and that was a report taken back in January. That's progressed, and you'll see more information coming through on that. And we're discussing that at ELT, and we are supporting the Wellbeing team in their recruitment process to help bolster that and help us look at ways that we can address that. And we've got another 5 members on the team, and we've been in contact with our EAP provider to talk about that rise in anxiety specifically, along with some of the other aspects of our EAP reporting, to find what things they may be able to offer to help our staff cope with these things. One of the new things that they have just developed and released is an app, and we're going to share that with the Wellbeing team to trial before we look at rolling that out across the organisation. But we're looking at a number of things there, and the executive are engaged in discussions across their directorates with their staff to ensure that we have this front of mind and are cautious to provide support for our people. Moving through, you'll see the review of lone worker devices. I've also talked about this in the past with our InReach Garmin devices. We've been working across the organisation for a number of months now to ensure that we have consistent practice. These are used in different directorates for different reasons, and as the technology has progressed, we are offering training across the organisation to ensure that all staff know how to use the device, and also know that there is new functionality out there. For example, that these can actually drive your mobile phone now, so you can use it for text. If you're out in the bush and you run out of cell signal, the Garmin device will now allow you to text and contact your colleagues, which is great. And we've got the flu vaccines booked in again for April and May. You'll see that there. They were the key points that I wanted to draw your attention to. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Councillor Marr.
Yeah, thank you for another comprehensive report, Stu. Just page 157, you highlight 4 concussion incidents. Can you give me a quick brief on that? I haven't seen concussion come through before as a incidents. Thanks.
Yep. So we've had a few of those. One was actually downstairs in one of the storerooms with quite low ceilings down there, and you have to duck underneath, and somebody had banged their head in there. So we've got signage up on that and foam to ensure that that doesn't happen. I'm just working my way through to have a look at what the other are for that.
So just one concussion.
There's
issue.
4 listed, but
yeah, that
maybe
was,
you hire shorter people.
Oh,
yeah. I'll look to see just one what the other incidents were. Yep, so trip and fall. There's 2 of those. Yeah, so it appears that 2 of them were related to falls, and there was a collision with someone entering the bathroom.
Okay.
Yep.
So no aggression or anything like that? No one's been knocked out or anything?
No.
Anything along those lines? Thank
he's
you.
playing rugby.
No.
We don't need to have the mouth guards.
No.
None of that. Okay.
Nothing like that, thankfully.
All right, we've got Councillor Mahuta online with her hand up. Sorry, Tipa, we can't hear you.
Sorry,
Rita.
Beth.
There we go.
Just a question through you. If we had a governance schedule of our obligations as the PCBU leads for health and safety, like visits, etc., that we should do in the triennium, just it's a thought for future meetings, but it'd be nice to know that we'd covered all these risks and laid eyes on them.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And we offer that, if you would like to get out there into the field or across the organisation, we'd be more than happy to assist you with that. You'll see in the report. Yep.
Yeah, that totally support that. But I think we should just, in our own governance obligations, Pamela, we should have a schedule that we just sign off as council that we've all noted, somewhere. If someone could organise that for us, that'd be great. Rather than it be as and when we choose. I think it's an obligation we should perform. Thank you.
Quite happy to organise a schedule if you would like.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah. Just noting that the PCBU in this organization is the chief executive and not councillors themselves. But do take your point, Councillor Mahuta, that it is important that council has a view, an overall view of how we're approaching these significant areas of risk and how they're being responded to. So thank you for that. Councillor Smith?
Just a general question, if I can. Last week, or might have been earlier this week, I went out in the foyer walking towards the lifts, saw a couple of people milling around, got into the lift and the two people dived in behind me. And I turned around, I saw they had visitor stickers on, whether they'd been out for a smoke or whatever. My concern was, and I did challenge them, to be quite frank, who the hell they were and what they were doing and why weren't they accompanied by a staff member. What's the practice? Because I nearly actually stopped the lift and kicked them out because I didn't see it's my role to let people in just because they had a sticker on there. And then they got out and they wandered off in level 1. 2, was it? Yeah. Yeah. And so the reality is, what is,
You're quite right.
Yeah.
We should know who is coming into or access our building, and if you're not sure, it is correct to question and ask them. And if you would feel more comfortable, you can bring them back around to reception, and they will find who should be guiding them through the organisation.
Yeah, well, I was going to, but then I didn't really want to make a scene. But the reality is, I don't
It
think
feels
staff
unnatural
actually,
to,
if they're going to have visitors and they're going to go out, staff need to be reminded that they are responsible for getting them back up.
That's right. Yeah.
So, thank you.
No, good point. All right. Councillor Hodge?
Kia ora, Stu. What are we doing around COVID these days? Do we still offer them to go and have a boost? Is there rats available, or
Yeah.
do you leave it up to them personally? Because I know that rats have expired, or they do expire, masks expire.
Yeah, we're still providing those, so they still have access to that.
Yeah, so we are still, if anybody comes in not
Ask
feeling
for it.
well,
Yeah, we
or
can.
whatever you
Yeah,
have.
we're certainly happy to
Okay.
provide that still. Yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you once again, Stu, for a comprehensive report. And can I just commend you on how you continue to develop on what is included in the report. Information that we might like to see. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Do I have a mover to accept the report? Councillor Marr, second Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, now on to item 8.2. This is on page 162 of your agenda. This is a request from Hauraki District Council for councillor participation in the Hauraki Plains Adaptation Planning Project. We have Alejandro joining us to talk us through. Over to you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Can I check that people online can hear me, please? E karahi aho o te tima whakatinana ko papahere, ko Alejandro Cifuentes tōku ingoa. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm the team leader for policy implementation. My name is Alejandro Cifuentes. Before you today, pages 162 to 168, we have a request from Hauraki District for councillor participation in the Hauraki Plains Adaptation Planning. The staff recommendation is the appointment of 4 councillors, 3 named and 1 space for the committee to decide. This is based on instructions from council to appoint ward councillors following the principles that were discussed towards the end of last year for engagement and involvement in adaptive planning. This particular project has around a 5-year timeframe. It's very similar to the Wharekawa Coast in terms of how the project will operate. And we received an invitation from the Hauraki District Mayor in December 2023. That is in attachment 1, pages 167 to 168. In terms of the project, you can see in Appendix A, which is in page 166 of your agenda pack, Covers the area of the plains that is within the boundary of the Hauraki District, and it's split in multiple phases, essentially 3 phases, and that's the way the project is expected to work. I'm happy to take questions to you, Madam Chair.
I've got Councillor Nicol, then Councillor Smith, and then Councillor Marr. Councillor Nicol.
Kia ora, Alejandro. Thank you very much. Really excited about this piece of work and grateful to Hauraki District for including us in the governance arrangements. I just wanted to nominate Councillor Ma because he's made some great contributions during the Wharekarawa Coast project, and also with the geography, I just think the Upper Hauraki leading into the Thames Coromandel area makes a lot of sense, including his experience as well with the shoreline management project, which a lot of others around the table, other than perhaps Katarina, who's already on the list, don't know much about. So there could be good opportunities to make sure that all those things are aligned. So it's, if he's willing to accept, of course.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I was approached by a couple of colleagues about being on this, but I think Councillor Maher is more appropriate. And I would support the 4 names of Councillor Maher and second it. Thank you.
So we've got a mover of that recommendation in Councillor Nicol and a second in Councillor Smith. Councillor Marr.
Just thank you, Councillor Nicol and Councillor Smith, for your votes of confidence, and yeah, happy to step into this space.
Councillor Hodge.
My question is the overshadowing of all the councillors on this. I can presume there's going to be 4 WRC, 4 Hauraki. Who's from the community and who is from mana whenua? Because otherwise, if you have people from there, it's a hell of a big, it's a big committee.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Hodge. Through you, Madam Chair, the specific details of the composition of the committee are still being worked with Hauraki District. So this is the invitation they've made to us. They're working with their iwi partners to also extend an invitation. We understand that there is a need to keep the committee to a manageable level. However, the extent of the plains is quite substantial. So we're working through options to make sure that we have the right representation at the governance level, at the technical level, and at the community panel level too. So that there'll be 3 levels to it.
Okay, thank you. Because one thing iwi don't like or mana whenua don't like is to come into something halfway through it. If they're not on the ground, it's ground root starting, you will not get their buy-in as you go along. Hence why it's important. You know, I'm not there to cover for all of the iwi because a lot of those people aren't on the Māori electoral roll.
Correct.
Okay.
Councillor Mahuta.
Just in support of Katarana's comments, Alejandro wanting to understand, I guess with the new catchment entities, co-governance committees being set up, the relationship of this adaptation planning project to that, because it might cover some of what Katarana is talking about as well.
Thank you, Councillor Mahuta. I do not think the technical advisory group has gone to that level of detail yet. However, I'm happy to take that on board and discuss it with the rest of the team, with Hauraki District and the rest of the subject matter experts from Waikato Regional Council. We have the zone teams involved in the technical advisory group. So I'll raise that question with them.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a mover and a seconder that Councillor Cookson, Dunbar Smith, Hodge, and Marr are appointed from the Regional Council to the Hauraki Plains Adaptation Planning Joint Working Party. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we now move on to item 8.3. This is on page 169. This is the adoption of the 2024-2034 long-term plan consultation document and supporting documents for audit. And we have Haven, sorry. We have Haven to work our way through this as well as Janine. Did you want to start, Janine, or?
Probably just a couple of comments before we receive the information that is in the report. Councillors will, off the back of a workshop yesterday, have received just a marked up copy of the edits to the consultation document that were captured yesterday.
Just a clarification, is the consultation document part of this motion?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Which part of the motion?
The very final bit.
Oh, is it not?
Yeah, yeah. So a
thank
whole
you.
bunch of supporting documents,
Gotcha.
supporting documents first,
Okay.
and then the consultation document at the end.
Thank you.
So still an opportunity to take final feedback on that. We can get to that. And the other one was an alternative graph following discussions yesterday as well that I'm happy to talk to at that time. But Haven.
Right.
Thank you. Morning, councillors. Morning, Chair. So yes, as noted in the report, the purpose is to adopt the 2024-2034 long-term plan consultation document and the supporting documents for audit, which is a requirement before we can have that formal consultation with our community. So the suite of all the documents yet to be approved or that were amended from the January-February meeting are attached to your agenda, pages 174 to 385. And we've had many workshops over the last 14 or 15 months to get to this stage. So I'm happy to take the report as read, and Janine has covered off the amendments to the consultation document and that supplementary graph. So happy to open up for discussion or questions.
Great. And just a reminder to councillors that we're not debating the contents of the LTP in this item. We are talking about the consultation document itself. All right. Councillor Marr.
Thank you. Just a couple of things from me. One of the things I think, where have I got it? Sorry. Page 174. I'd like to see a list of the committees of council and their members included. I think that'd be helpful for the public, just to show the number of committees that we do have and the members that are on those committees.
Sorry, 170. What?
I was just thinking of slotting it in on that page 174. That's it rather than.
Where is?
That's in our hard
174?
copy agenda, page 174. That's sort of a
What
bit
is
of an
it?
outline of.
So Madam Chair, that's one of the supporting documents, which is just the context to the organisation. I don't see that being a problem at all. It provides the structure around how decisions are made.
Yep, thank you. And can someone give me a comment? Page 227 indicates community education. I just haven't seen any sort of presentation in that space. Oh, I've seen Ruben the bear. Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen him doing a lot, but.
So this was a question around the various community education
Yeah, just.
initiatives that
I know
we
this is
either
not-
fund or participate in.
Yeah, we just haven't had any feedback or any work.
So I guess the other programs, I think Brent's there, a lot of it reporting into his area, our EnviroSchools program, our Kura Waiti Waita, those types of activities. So as well as Ruben.
Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly, just on the balance sheet, do we list our forestry assets anywhere?
Yes, through the chair, that is the line that will be biological assets.
Okay, so it
Yep.
drops into that space.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's me.
Councillor Hodge?
On page 175, Janine, you've got, na hauewa and na taikiuta, but the naming on the map is not quite right because I go all over. You know what I mean? No, Ngā Taiki. The only one I miss out is Tipa's area, and that doesn't show there. It shows it a little bit out. You've only got the Ngā Taiki at the bottom of Waiho.
There's a little outline.
Yeah, it's not showing on a map? Okay.
Mhm. We'll cover that and we'll ensure that the final version is quite clear on the two Māori wards. All right. Okay. We do have a. No,
Excuse me.
Councillor Nicol?
Thank you. I really appreciate how staff have incorporated the edits from our comments yesterday. They look really, really good. I had, and I wanted to just endorse, I really like the updated graph with the public transport pulled out. So just keen to hear from others whether they do too. Then, but on one of them, on the breakout quote on the biodiversity item, around for every $1 of natural heritage rate spent on work delivered by communities, the return is between $3 and $5. Can we be slightly more specific on the return to what? Is it just the leveraging, which I think it is, but how to word that nicely? Because people might think, okay, return to economy in total, or so just making that slightly more specific. Otherwise, all looks great. I just picked up one other thing, and that was on the public transport item. Under the second page of it, there's a couple of paragraphs. One says first and one says second. And in that first one, it says whether all properties in the region contribute to public transport investment. I was just wondering whether you would want to have in the district, because when you give the options, we talk, say in the tables at the end, they say within 5 kilometres or district wide, which is for that first assumption there. This thought region gives people the impression that it's a lot wider than what it ends up being for that first option. But happy to just leave that with you. It's a fairly minor point. Around the option 1 in the box, I just wanted to suggest that paragraph says we're defining a new area. Because that hasn't been chosen yet, when you read it as a person, you kind of think, oh, you're already decided. I was just saying we could say also we would define a new area so that people are feeling like they're part of the process there. And it comes in the last sentence there, all people within this metro area would pay the same amount towards rather than will pay. I realize it's just semantics in some ways, but it just reads a lot nicer if it's open to options, which is what they are. And then my last 2 comments was just on the actual, which I've already shared with Wendy and yourself, Janine, the actual options on the submission that the public transport items have a little summary next to option 1 and option 2 to jog people's memories. Because that would be consistent with all the other items on that list. And the very last one was, I'd suggest, do you support Waikato Regional Council rating for public transport services across the region? It's just a slight change, but more specific. I'm just mindful this is a really complicated item, and so I wanted to put them out there that I'd picked up after a second reading. That is all.
Councillor Marr?
Thank you. I've been happy with the content. When will we actually see a format of the document?
A design version of the consultation
Yeah.
document. We will start working on that after it's adopted. We'll bring that back to you before we adopt it for formal consultation at the end of March.
Okay, so I just a heads up. I just not sure that there's a lot of te reo in there, and I'm just not sure there's some just in the fonts and all that sort of thing, how that's going to look at the end. Not being critical of it, but I just seeing how it all sits. So we will have a chance to comment on how that looks prior to it going out.
Yeah, so through the chair, I think it's important that council does get to see the design version before you have to formally consider it at your 28th of March council meeting. I think generally the design of the document is following our design principles that we have, but we'll find a workshop time or something like that we can bring.
Yeah, I
back to
didn't
you.
just want to get too far
No.
down the track with staff time and then come back and say, hey, we want to change something. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, 2 things. We have gone through and put in the funding amounts on the ones that we're not actually consulting on that we're doing. But when we come to Tahuya, passenger rail service and renewal of rolling stock, there's no dollar amounts there, and I just wonder why.
Uh, So through the chair, I think when Wendy was working through the document last night, the Te Huia story has got all of the financials within it rather than actually that one statement. So it's all about the investment. It seemed that that information was already incorporated into the story, so we haven't put that one-liner down there.
We're talking about this short document.
Consultation document,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And I read that, I don't see what you've just said. I don't see to me, there's significant dollars involved in both of these and that we should be declaring what they are in the next 3 years. And it's all subject to government decisions, obviously, but I don't see why the rest have got dollar figures and that one doesn't.
So through the chair, I think in terms of the passenger rail service, what we have focused on there is the dependency around the funding and the enhanced funding rate, which is clearly called out in terms of the last paragraph under that section. In terms of the renewal of rolling stock, that does note the proposed whole of life cost is up to $130 million with, again, the assumptions around the funding of that.
So you're referring here in the passenger rail to if for some reason the 75.5% contribution is reduced to 51, the service is no longer affordable. Is that what you're saying? But we obviously have a financial cost in that period.
But there is no new investment being proposed within the first 3 years of the LTP for passenger rail services.
Perhaps,
So the new,
perhaps that needs to be declared
Okay.
then.
so that's the rolling stock.
Yeah.
It's
So
not, sorry, so in terms of Councillor Smith's comment, that's rolling stock, it's not services. So we do note incremental improvements are planned from 27-28, year 4 of this long-term plan.
I just think it's important that we're transparent about this and that there are costs coming in, such as the deposit, they're indicated in dollar terms as they are in all the others.
So can I just clarify 2 separate topics within this one? There's around the service improvements, where we are saying incremental improvements will be introduced from 27-28. No, we haven't got any dollars in there, acknowledge that. But the key conversation is around the ongoing funding for those beyond the service trial period, 5-year review. And then in terms of the rolling stock, we have called out there the total whole of life cost for that rolling stock of 130 million, with our assumption around the required subsidy for the purchase of that rolling stock.
Can we, are you wanting, could we make that bold or something like
Well,
that to
well,
make it
just-
more apparent?
Under the passenger rail service, while its future is uncertain, we must now plan for service improvements. There should be a statement, there are no funding implications in the next 3-year period. I mean, we understand that it's in year 4 of the long-term plan, but that doesn't mean anything to the average public.
Through the chair, we can look at tightening up that sentence. I think the intent was those improvements will start from year 4, so there's nothing in the first 3
Yeah,
years.
it's
But
just-
we want us to be explicit around,
More explicit.
there's actually nothing planned
Right.
in terms of the first 3 years.
Yeah.
The service improvements will incrementally come online from year 4 of the plan. Yeah.
And the deposit in terms of the rolling stock, that's within that 3-year period?
2026. Yeah.
So therefore, we should indicate there is implication about that deposit. Once you pay a deposit, you're locked into a system. You either lose the money or you get it back. You know, you don't get it back. So and just to pick up on a point Jen was making earlier, and on page 43, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you raised it or if I didn't hear it, but it's important that the public transport rate, we actually have them spelled out what they are, the 80% and the 20%, rather than just do you option 1 or option 2.
Yeah, so, yeah, I like the way the clarity's been improved on the biodiversity section, and I really like the additional information that's been put in there about biosecurity. That's great, because it really brings it to the attention of the people who are going to be reading this document. Just one typo that I've noticed on the biodiversity section. If you look at the red insert that's gone in towards the middle of the text there, resulting in us not being able to support rather than about. Word about is in there.
What paragraph?
Not being able to support. Page 14. Yeah. You'll see that the word about is there. Wendy's got it, I think, there. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Smith.
So for just public transport, current proposal relates only to public transport in relation to buses. Is that correct? There's no public transport rate currently for Te Huia, or does the public transport rate foresee some of the funds raised through this proposed rating system going into Te Huia?
Go to Phil.
So Te Huia is currently funded from the Hamilton targeted rate that we already have, plus a contribution from Waikato District Council. So if Waikato District Council area were to come into the regional rate, that portion would be picked up and used to fund that part of Te Huia.
Can we have clarity about that in the story, please? Because at this stage, and the other issue was the question, do you support regional council rating public transport? You've got yes, no. If you support option 1 or 2. Why isn't there an option 3? Neither. Both.
Well,
Can you bring your mic closer to you? Angela's just having to.
Sorry. No.
so through the chair, I think if it's none of those options, then it would be, no, we don't actually support it.
So, okay, well, I'll wait to see how the responses are reflected, and because I've seen with councils, you get a yes to quit the first line, and then you you get a no to the first line, but then you may have 100 people respond and only say 70% say yes, but then that's watered down and you forget about the people who actually said no. So I just want to make sure that when this is all reported back for the hearing process, that it's all taken into account. So I'll be looking at the detail, perhaps I'm signalling, of how the responses are reflected back, so that if it's not accurate. But anyway, I'm just raising my concern that there isn't, you ask one question, but you don't, I think, well, Jen's getting what I'm trying to say. So anyway, my main concern was about whether there would be a component for Te Huia in this model, which is not spelled out.
No. Through the chair, I understand that the Te Huia numbers sit outside of these rates. I think that was a point that was clarified in the council discussion when this was being worked through.
I'd like to see that reflected in this document, so that this is a big deal for some of the communities that we're talking about. And having clarified with Mr. King this morning that, for example, going out to Raglan, you'll pick up everybody on State Highway 23 and all the properties to either side. And some of those, like Kapamahanga Station, just to name one out at Whorowhora, thousands of acres, a couple of thousand, 3,000 acres. You've got a maximum of 5 million, but that could be for a bus service about $1,300 of new rates that they will pay, which is normally paid by general rate through the district council. So for some of it, while it's capped at 5 million, some of these are going to be significant numbers. You go out to Te Uku and you've got the wind farm, so you'll have commercial interests paying. The whole story is not actually encapsulated in this document, so I will be ensuring my communities are aware.
Mr. Nicol?
Thank you.
Yeah, just wanted to ask about whether it adds a lot of value to have it as two separate questions, or whether to just propose the options, since the no of the first question is effectively option 3 that was being referred to. But whether it adds value to do it in 2 or not, but I haven't landed on it. It's just that I do see the consistency of how people can read it and the complexity of this item, that it could help. For example, it says, do you support rating for services across the region? No. We can keep it just as no, or we can clarify no keeps invoicing. We keep invoicing district council, just to forgive it. Sorry, there was a lot in there, Janine.
Yeah, so through the chair, I guess I'm just trying to think through what we require the consultation document to do for us.
Which you know best.
And so I think it was, is there support for the proposal, yes or no? Like, it's a really simple question of, are you supportive of us doing this, yes or no?
Yeah.
And then there's the options. So you could still say no, but if you're going to do it, then actually this would be my preference.
I do see the logic.
I think to go neither actually doesn't give council any useful feedback in terms of what an alternative rating model would be. Because if you want to do it, you then need to choose a model that we still need to do more work on.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm not sure, and audit will require us to have genuine options for consultation.
That's right.
And so I think, as Councillor Smith has said, the devil will be in the detail, and it will be in the analysis of the submissions.
Oh, and having read them last time, that's why I wanted the questions to really make sense. Thank you for allowing us to just explore it for a minute. I just wanted to hear that from Janine. Thanks.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
So I just wanted to say, I think this graph is really good. And where it's positioned actually helps you see it and explain it much better than otherwise, and it will help people make a decision.
Through the chair, can I just talk to this though? I'm interested that councillors think it's good, because I was thinking, oh, that needs a whole heap more explaining, is the challenge that I believe that revised format gives us. In the context of the consultation document at the moment, the additional graph that we had in there was particularly looking at and calling out the impact of the catchment rates, because we know that for a number of our ratepayers, that's a significant part of their bill. If you look at the graph in terms of the inclusion of public transport, we have the increase in year 2, which, as we understand, is the assumed regional rating impact. So we're taking on that additional revenue. The one that then needs explaining is the decrease in 2027-28. And that, Phil and I were looking at it last night, that is the fact that with the public transport funding system, we can only apply for 3-year funding bids at a time. So at the end of that 3-year period, we revert back to baseline. So it's not actually a real decrease.
Yeah.
When we get to that next planning window, we will likely see more applications for funding and over that next 3-year period.
An explanation, or just give the three, can we just give the 3-year term? I mean, we can talk about it in other places, but if we're trying to explain to people the impact, it's that's where our 8% rate increase is coming in the year 2. It's from that.
Yes, that is driving it, and we've called that out anyway in terms of being really clear around year 2. I think it is the change in rating revenue as opposed to necessarily the change in rates paid, which is always the tricky thing. But in the hands of council, it's your consultation document.
Yeah. With that explained, I could get on board with the original graph, but simply another sentence of narrative to say what the proportion of the other is public transport. So rather than just saying it's a large part, saying it is, however many percent or 2/3 or approximately half, or just so that people seeing that can say, oh, right, so the other is this much PT. And then you get away from having to have the 3 colours. I could be fine with that too. Yeah.
Are we adding a explanation of what the other targeted rates are? Is there something in our, because now now that we've called out catchment and public transport, we now have, a fairly significant gray bar there in 24, 25. I'm just thinking that somebody's going to say, what's the other? So if we are going to adopt this, we would, I think we have to add some explanation as to what is included in other. Otherwise, it creates new questions that this graph was meant to enlighten us on.
Which is where the context within which the existing graph is around. So it's on page 11, the paragraph underneath. So fund targeted rates, fund discrete activities. We understand that for some of our ratepayers, these targeted rates make up the majority of the rates they pay us, particularly in relation to catchment management. And then it was pulling out the catchment management from other targeted rates in the following graph. Then noting that public transport.
Any thoughts, or what, is there more support for the new one or support for the, noting that the new one would require some additional words?
Yeah, I support the new one. Clearly shows public transport.
Okay. Right. Yeah, we're just gonna have to do a little bit more wordsmithing.
Yeah.
And just noting that wordsmithing will not come back to council before it has to go to the auditors. So I'm just. All right.
Well, while we're discussing graphs, I just, and I know Councillor Downard's the same as myself, I really struggle with those year 4 onwards and how they're showing such a minimum increase when we know that's not the case. Is there any narrative we could put around that? Like these figures are likely to change, or indicative only, or something, because it's a real misrepresentation.
It is,
from what I believe.
And that was the challenge that we had through our long-term plan.
And I understand.
And we did try to reflect some of those activities through. We can look at some words in terms of it's 3 years in detail, and indicative numbers beyond that. We're not required to plan 10 years in detail. Yeah. But I think 3 years in detail, and then
Someone's not going to come back and go, hey, look, you guys
You see
predicted all this, and you're way out the door, you're useless,
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, good points. All right. Have we got a mover to receive and support to go to audit, noting the additional comments that we have asked to be included in this meeting? Oh, sorry. Oh, are you moving? Oh, nice. Look at you. Awesome. So moved by Councillor Clarkson, seconded by Councillor Marr. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Sure.
Yesterday, I was informed, or prior to that, I had been made aware that district councils, territorial authorities had been given the opportunity to do an annual plan as opposed to a long-term plan and do a LTP next year for 9 years. Was the regional council offered that opportunity?
No, that was because of the introduction of the alternate.
For the expression, Three Waters.
local waters done
That
well.
was my understanding. Someone told me
The-
yesterday that in fact it included regional councils, and I'm
No,
just speaking surety that
No.
was not the case.
It does not.
They might have been referring to unitary councils, which often get included in the regional sector, but are not regional councils.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We are moving on to item 8.4. This is on page 380. There's more, but wait, there's more, Councillor Smith. So this is on page 386. 8.4. This is the Motukaraka supplementary water take level of service and consultation. Greg.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Rick
Morena Tato. So this is a consultation process that we'll be running alongside the long-term plan consultation process. I think as we'd previously noted, we are looking to run it a couple of weeks early so that the outcome of the process can then inform our LTP process, particularly around whether or not budget needs to be provided under option 1. One area that I did highlight for you previously was some issues that we had to resolve around option 2 and making sure that there was a pathway for achieving that option under the provisions of the RMA. Subsequently have had discussions with the Resource Use Directorate to confirm what that pathway would look like. And what I have before you, I think it's the one up on the screen now, is a slightly amended resolution which adjusts option 2 to note that we would look to transfer the asset to the beneficiary landowners. We would also transfer the application that is currently live to those beneficiary landowners. And then we would look to enable the operation of that asset through while the resource consent is being considered. So that recommendation 2B, you'll see, has been amended. I think as discussed yesterday, it's been a long journey. I am joined by Sarah Leland, our Lower Waikato Zone Manager, who has been helping our community to navigate this particular issue. Has gone around for a little while, so it will be good to, I guess, hear the community's views on where they wish to land with this particular matter. I'm able to take the rest of the report as read, Madam Chair.
Nice. I'm really pleased that we've gotten this conversation to this point. I think it serves the community. They have been asking for this for the ability to have this broader conversation. So so really pleased that we've gotten to this point. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to move the amended the resolution with the amended item 2. Greg and Robbie and I discussed this morning and took the feedback from Greg relating to the issues around option 2. And to add to your words, the community has certainly been asking for a long time. I believe from my observations that it has been frustrating at times for staff, the lack of progress, but equally for the community members. And so to get it to this stage and now bring it to a head and I urge my fellow councillors to support this going to consultation as planned and would move it accordingly, Madam Chair.
I'm happy to second. Any other questions or comments with regard to this? No. Yes. Yes, thank you, Sarah and your team for your perseverance, your attendance at so many meetings and preparation of reports and presentations and willingness to engage over a considerable time period. So thank you for your diligence in that. Councillor Marr?
Just point of clarification. So item 3 that's on the screen in front of us, that was the old motion, correct? Okay, thank you. That's all.
Well, that was the initial recommendation that came out in the agenda, the agenda, and what we have up on screen now is the current motion for consideration. Yes. So we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right. We now move on to item 8.5. This is on page 394. This is the appointment of director to the board of Waikato Local Authority Shared Services Limited. or Waikato Lass.
Moved.
We've got we've got a mover and councillor Dunbar Smith. We've got a second in councillor Hughes. And just so we note what we're saying, this is to appoint our Chief Executive, Chris McClay, as our representative on the Board of Directors. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. This is our last item. All right, this is our last item. This is item 8.6 on page 398. The approval of new procedural delegations in relation to the Resource Management Act 1991. We have Jonathan Rindling, our senior solicitor. Thank you for joining us, Jonathan.
Good morning, all.
All right, I'm sure you can take the report as read, but is there anything else that, or anything that you would like to particularly highlight or?
No, nothing. You can take it as read. Just to confirm at the last council meeting that it was resolved that any changes to the delegations on the Resource Management Act must be approved by the full council, and that's why I'm here today to seek your approval.
Oh, so Councillor Mahuta has said practical application of these measures. Question mark. Tipa, would you like to?
Yeah, just wondered if you could give an example of the matters that these emergency powers would be put in and how we would use them. Anybody? There must be a betterment.
I suspect, and Brent's not here at the moment, he may be able to help us further on that, but these delegations come under the orders for these severe emergency recovery orders. So it would be in relation to the reconstruction of the assets and the land after the recent weather events. Bearing in mind, one thing that's probably not set out in this report is these orders do have a finite time. They're not ongoing, so at some I can't recall what dates those are, but they do have a time when they cease to exist. So it's really just in relation to the severe weather events that happened around this time last year.
I appreciate that clarity, and I'd move it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, we do have a mover. I'll come to you. Is there a seconder, or would you like to second?
In a moment.
So we've got a mover in you, Councillor Mahuta. We have a seconder in Councillor Dunbar Smith. I'll come to you now.
Question, thank
Councillor
you.
Smith.
I note that in all but the last one on page 398, you've got the director, the regional consents manager, and the senior advisor resource use. But in item 20, you've got the consents team leader. What the difference between the previous delegations and the addition of the consents team leader under this particular delegation?
The first one you're talking about, 6.75, is it the one?
Sorry, Jonathan, could I just get you to move the mic a little bit closer to you? There we go.
Paragraph 20 of your report, you've got the consents team leader, not mentioned previous in the other delegations. So just interested to know why that person comes into that as opposed to previously.
I can't take that further, unfortunately, because this is based on feedback from the specific directorates who recommended that a consents team leader be included in this delegation. I would assume that it would be out of efficiency that those powers would be more suitable to include the consents team leader as well. But unfortunately, I can't take that further than that.
We are trying to get the director either online or in the chambers just to answer, unless I'm looking over there and if there's anybody else who'd like to pipe up. Oh, Director May. I've got, there we go.
Madam Chair, I can take an initial swing at it. I would suggest that the consents team leaders are identified in clause 20 as it is a in effect, a subsidiary decision that would have already been made by somebody who holds a higher decision-making delegated authority. We are just looking there at an extension of notice period. That would be my understanding. But as we said, that's something that Brent could clarify, noting that the senior advisor did provide him advice on this.
Appreciate, it's an educated guess, and I think you may be right, but the issue is.
Yeah, we'll try and get Brent down here. In the meantime, Councillor Marr, did you have we'll come back to, sorry, were you? Yeah.
Clarification, and it may need to go to Brent as well, but I'm assuming just extreme weather, emergency response, recovery, waste management, all in capitals, but I'm assuming that relates to the waste that comes out of this extreme event and nothing to do with waste management, the company?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. It would do with disposing of waste management after the extreme weather events.
Thank you.
All right. I do want to get Brent to address there's Brent. Did you run down the stairs? Are you a wee bit puffed? Do we need to give you a second? Great. Okay, so I'm just going to let Councillor Smith ask the question again, so that you're clear what we're asking for comment on. Can I get you to do your mic there?
Again, sorry, paragraph 20, if you've got that in front of you. If you haven't, Warren's given you the heads up. So all the previous delegations go to the level above. Why is the team leader particularly on that? Tracy's had a stab at it, saying it's already been put in place. This is just giving the ability for that lower level to extend it. Is that the case, or is there some other reason, please?
It's a little bit of a consequence of previous council's decisions about where RMA matters can be sub-delegated. And so any RMA related matter needs to come back into the council now, as opposed to it being sub-delegated. This is about making sure that decisions go to the appropriate level. And the appropriate level is the consents team leader, because those are where those operational decisions are made. Really, the ones that are above are the people that sit in the hierarchy, if you like, that's the right word, above the place where these decisions would normally be made. So if that person in that role is not available, then you go up a level. So in the practical reality, the decisions will be made at that level because that's the right level for these decisions to be made.
Yeah, in the previous paragraphs then, why is the team leader? And look, I've closed the report, so I'm going to flip the question and say, why isn't the team leader included in the ones above, without actually rereading the report to see that the questions are relevant?
So there's, I guess, is how often these, part of it's about how often do the decisions need to be made? Are they quite rare decisions? So give you an example. Where costs are going to be sought in court. Now, the recommendation about seeking costs in court would come through from the relevant team leader. It's a very rare thing, so we thought, well, those decisions should be at the level so that the very rare decisions, the person one step up that would see across the board to make sure that there's consistency across the board for those rare decisions. These are kind of operational day-to-day decisions, which very, very, I would be very surprised if it ever got anywhere near me, but if the three people below aren't in the building and they need a decision made, then I can make that decision as well.
Okay, look, I'm happy with that. Thank you, and support.
Great. Any further questions on that? No, we've got a mover and a seconder that the report is received and that we approve the delegations as outlined in the report. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Carried. All right, that brings us to the end of the business today. Thank you very much, everyone. That's I appreciate the diligence and the efficiency with which we have endeavored our way through the agenda this month. So thank you very much. We shall close with a
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unahia, mai te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te hinenaro, i te ara takatū, koe rā e rongo, e whakare aki ki runga, kia tina, haumie, huie, tae kie.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, counselors and staff. We'll declare the meeting closed at 11:46 a.m.